Welcome to Conversations with Calvin. It's Monday morning. I don't usually do a chronological thing, but it's Monday morning, May 17th. And gosh, Carla Davis-Smith and I have been planning this for a long time. And I got to do a little bit of a monologue because it's really special, and she's special in my life, and actually in this whole evolution of Conversations with Calvin. But before I do that, I've never done this before, but I need to do this. I don't do commercials because this isn't commercials, but there are 3 books I need to show you all. But before I even do that, I'm going to ask everybody who's watching, please subscribe to this channel. It's how this thing grows and grows, and more people will have access to it. So please subscribe. But the commercials, I'm going to be interviewing Donald G. James, one of the most interesting people. He wrote this book, Manners. He also spent 35 years at NASA, and lately #2 in NASA education, and he was one person removed from the president. And what a fascinating, every young person on the planet should read this, because he guides you in everyday living. It's wonderful, and he's wonderful. So that's Donald. And then Casey Wayshay, she wrote this wonderful, and Carla, you probably appreciate this. She wrote this wonderful little book called "I'm the Boss of Me," and it's great. And I'm actually going to be interviewing Casey this coming week. And finally, I just posted for everybody. I was telling Carla about this. Wajid Hassan wrote this, "The Struggle for World Sanity." It's kind of heavy. Just, you want to laugh. It's not it's heavy stuff. Wajid, just one of the most amazing people I've ever met in his journey from Pakistan to England to America, and then wound up in LA, where he was a comedian for like 20 years and an actor, and then climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and then got into metaphysics and UFOs. But yes, interesting stuff, and which now brings me to Carla Davis-Smith, and I also need to tell the world that it's because of Carla's daughter, Claudine Smith, that this whole channel was born. It was in August. I was Zooming. I had met Claudine on LinkedIn. She's a Rutgers track star, a triple jump record holder for Rutgers University. And we just Zoomed one day, and boom. I said, what a great idea to interview people like Claudine. She's so poised, and as a sophomore, and so intuitive and put together. And so that's how this whole channel was born. Of course, I met Carla a few weeks ago at a track meet, Claudine's track meet. Finally, before let me get off my little platform here, finally, I've got to say that Carla is so fascinating. The work you're doing, volunteerism with mental health in Atlantic City, is beyond, such that, and we're going to unpack all of that. But a couple of weeks ago, Carla was telling me she'd gotten a phone call in the evening, and she didn't recognize the number, and she almost didn't answer the phone, but she did. And it was Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey calling her personally to thank her for her volunteerism and the work she's doing with young people in Atlantic City and promoting mental health and those kind of things. So when she told me that, it was like, wow. I mean, and here we are. So the other thing I want to emphasize, and Carla will too, is so much of what she does is she is an administrative by title. She'll go over that, an administrative assistant in Atlantic City high schools, and so much of what she does is enabled by getting grants from the NJEA, the New Jersey Educational Association, of which my wife out there in the kitchen was a member for 30, 35, whatever. So enough said. By the way, the title of this is Innovative High School Mental Health Program Creator, Carla Davis-Smith, etc. So without further ado, a little background and then take it away.
Thank you so much, Calvin, for inviting me on your wonderful show. I know you've been touching a lot on mental health, and it's so interesting that this month is Mental Health Month. So it gives me pleasure to speak on the topic. And also, I want to thank you for connecting with me at Claudine Strat Meet, and I'm glad you guys met. So great stuff, great stuff. So thank you for the introduction. And yes, I've been doing a lot of mental health work this year, especially with the pandemic being hovering over us. And in the eye of the pandemic, I was really concerned about our students and how they are maneuvering, being locked down, isolated, and also going to school virtually. They've never done this before. So it's a challenge. And I thought about how can I do something to encourage them to keep doing what they're doing. So I made a couple of topics each month. The first one that I did was strictly on mental health. How are you? How are you coping? Did a survey, and the students actually started to respond how it's affecting them, how it's affecting their families, how it's affecting them not seeing their friends. And I was fortunate enough to get a clinician from one of the mental health facilities around in my area. And she came on. We do most of these things that I've been doing are directly on Zoom. Right. So not because there is a lockdown, we're not able to reach the kids. You have to think outside the box. So the first one I did was back in the winter, and the clinician came on and 50 students on that Zoom. Wow. 50 students. Wow. Yes, it was amazing. Yeah. And once the clinician connected with them, they just started to divulge what they're going through, the stress, the challenges. And she was very kind to address these topics with them. The Zoom that I created was designed for like about 60 minutes. We went into almost 2 hours. That's how engaging these students were and how much they felt like someone was hearing what they're saying, targeting what they're saying and addressing it. So she let them felt like, we hear you, your concerns are valid, we're all in this together, and this is how we're gonna maneuver this pandemic. She gave them excellent stress reduction techniques on how to maneuver this pandemic. And in addition to the clinicians, I also had a little incentive for them. I purchased some tools to do with waking them up. The Alexa dots. Each participant received an Alexa dot. So we know that it's hard to wake up for school. And if you can program that Alexa to personalize, wake me up with your favorite song.
Great. That's great.
So I thought that in addition to all the tips that they were getting, why don't you give them a tool that they can say, let me use this as my tool to wake me up. So that's what I did. And it was awesome. It was a great response.
So, you know, as we all here begin to listen to you, it kind of makes perfect sense that the governor of New Jersey picks up the phone and calls you, listening to this. By the way, the fact that you have 50 kids, I mean, Zoom, I mean, that's that. And by the way, that bespeaks these are great kids that they want.
Yes.
They're aware and they want. It's a great, you know, it's a great lesson. And we were talking before we went on air for a long time, you know, about Gen Z and how much help they're going to need, because we've been locked in our houses for a year, and it's got to do something to this thing up here.
Absolutely.
And you're so proactive, Carla.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of looking over. You've done some one-on-one visits with students also.
Yeah, yeah.
And what were some of the things when you, and some of them were actually like homeless and displaced?
Yes. What I did back in February, and I specifically, Calvin, chose Valentine's Day. It was on a Sunday. And I said, what about the students who are displaced? Pre-COVID, they were displaced and homeless. And I connected with my guidance counselor to identify that student population. There were 19 students in our school that fit that category.
Wow.
And I decide that with the grant, I'm gonna purchase for them hygienic supplies, things that we take for granted.
Yes.
You know, toothpaste, soap, lotion, you know, things for that we take for granted. And I said, I'm gonna make a packet for them and deliver it on Valentine's Day. I remember that day, we had like a freeze and there was a lot of ice on the ground. And I said, nothing is gonna stop me, because these kids need to feel like they are special, they're valued. And when they receive their packages, in addition, also, let me step back a little bit. I also decide to partner with one of the local restaurants in our area to give them a voucher for a meal that they can probably also share with their families, the occupants of the house. So what better thing? You get your hygienic supply. Yes, you probably would feel better if you get some food in your stomach, right? So when I visited them, and I got a lot of help from my vice principal as well, we stopped and chatted with them. So in addition to them getting that package and the meal voucher, we chatted with them to find out, how are you making out? So we took that mental health piece a little bit further in just connecting with them at home, and it was great. So each month I try to do something for a particular population that might be missed over. So we connected and they were so happy for that package. Another project that I also did was, and even with the pandemic and the social unrest, because we know that was another piece of the what happened in 2020 that put people in angst and, you know, feeling stressed out. So what I also did was I incorporated a motivational speaker to speak to the boys. He was the author of Letters of Love from Black Men to Black Boys. And with the grant, I got some books, and we had a session on Zoom with the speaker and the boys and their parents, just to talk about how much is going on with them, to feel encouraged, to feel loved. And it was a great project as well. They really connected well.
All right, this is just amazing stuff you're doing. And I said it twice already. No wonder why the governor called you. I mean, that it's such a testament
Yes.
for, your whole spirit, Carla, the whole volunteerism, which, by the way, goes back to you being a young girl growing up in Jamaica. You began your journey, a long time ago. So this volunteer thing it's part of who you are, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Thanks for touching
Yep.
on that.
So
It
it's
really,
a whole journey. You've had a whole volunteerism journey, which is so special.
it really is. And really and truly, Calvin, I am an advocate for young people because I truly believe that if we do not preserve our young people, which are our future, what do we have if we don't make sure that they are taken care of from a mental standpoint? And mental health is just as important as physical health, because you could have a student that knows everything about STEM, math, English, literature, but if they're not intact when it comes to their mental health,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. It's not going to connect. So that's my whole mission, to make sure that they are in a safe place. They're encouraged for our future.
I mentioned to you also before I went on air that I never planned any of this. It all began with Claudine, and it just keeps evolving. But this little niche that I'm learning about things about mental health that I've never known before, and of course as I've observed and listened, the biggest thing with mental health is the stigma.
Yes, yes,
Nobody wants to admit, it's not something that people want to talk about, and people are just very reticent and reluctant to ask for help. And so what you're doing by putting it out with young people, I think exposing young people that, hey, there's no problem asking.
yes.
There's no shame in asking. So, I mean, the work what a journey you're on, and the importance of your journey, especially again with young people.
Yeah.
So, getting into a little bit more specifics, and we wanted to do this interview, and that's why we're doing this right now, in conjunction with the fact that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Are there any specific activities you're doing with high school students in
Sure.
regard to this?
Sure. In addition to the speeches from motivational speakers, clinician, I've taken it to another point where I'm wondering, what are the students doing when they're locked in? There's no movie theaters that's opened.
Right.
There's no miniature golf that's open. They're locked in doing nothing. So I pivoted and decided to do a paid party. So what I did was actually have a registration where they can come in and say, I want to do it. And prior to the party, say 4 days before, I had the students pick up a packet of paint supplies. It's the canvas, it's the paints, it's the brushes, everything that they needed for that paint party. Because we have to think outside the box, right, Calvin? You can't let the pandemic deter you from thinking about how we're gonna survive this thing. So they were excited. They picked up their supplies, and for the students who weren't able to pick up their supplies, I coordinated with teachers to drop them off at their home.
Wow.
And I usually have these Zoom events on Fridays, 6 to 8, because I figure, okay, there's no school tomorrow. We could stay up, we can have fun, we can relax. And those kids had so much fun with the paint supplies. We ended up having 2 paint parties. One with the art teacher, collaborated with him, and he was great to do it. and another was with an artist in Atlantic City, and that was great too. So that was another event that I had. So that was great. And the next one that I'm having that's
Wonderful.
coming is road safety awareness. So that will be in another week. And yes,
But that's so synchronistic. You said road safety awareness because 2 weeks ago, we didn't talk about this, but it's so synchronistic. The powers that be in the universe introduced me to a woman, Kathleen Booth, from Red Bank Catholic High School, who is doing exactly what you're doing with road safety awareness, the whole package. That's what she does, and it's part of some kind of it's part of a program that's run by the Brain Injury Alliance of New Jersey that has worked with 50 or 60 high schools in getting them to do this competition. Hey, I'm just throwing that out to you. So with what you're doing, Carla, what is the main ingredient, the main factor that drives your passion to volunteer and make a difference? What is that?
thank you for that question. So pretty much, growing up in Jamaica, I grew up with my maternal grandmother, and her focus was in helping people. If someone doesn't have, you try to help. So that passion was like born from I was a young girl. So in high school, I joined with the Key Club, which is the youth arm of the Kiwanis. I also joined with Leo Club, and pretty much it's service. It's service to your fellow mankind, especially the ones that do not have. Just zeroing in on the mental health piece, that energy came with the need, with the pandemic. That's why I decided to focus more on mental health for this year. But yes, I have been passionate about doing work with the students. I have been a troop leader, two troop leaders of two different troops simultaneously, Girl
Scouts, right?
Girl Scouts of
Okay.
Central and Southern
Okay.
New Jersey. So I have been just making sure that the girls are pretty much well-groomed for leadership, and they know certain events that they're supposed to take part in. We do the cookie drive, just to make sure that they are having a safe upbringing. Because you and I know, Calvin, that part of your life is so important with how you see the world as you grow up. If you have a safe foundation, you will be able to maneuver adulthood in a more kinder way. So we're kind of grooming young people towards feeling safe. So my passion is, yes, volunteering.
Wow. What an inspiration. I'm sitting here just listening. This is just great stuff, Carla. Listening and absorbing and hoping lots of people out there, kind of partake and understand what you've done. The other interesting element to you is you've worked with the American Field Service.
Yes.
As a student liaison. And there you kind of interacted with a lot of foreign students. What was that like?
That was amazing. It was a learning experience for me because the one student I had, he was from Iceland.
Wow.
And there was another kid from Spain. And my role was to liaise in between the host parent and the student to make sure that they're getting all the right experiences. What it pretty much is for the AFS is trying to garner peace with connections with different cultures. So we do, as Americans, have students that go abroad as well. So it is like an exchange where students come here and we send students abroad. And what a great organization for our youth, because it kind of connects the world, makes it smaller, that we're all one.
Correct.
And we connect. It will
Correct.
make
We talked about that.
Yes. And
Wow.
these kids, they were so grateful to be a part of this culture, the American culture, knowing things that they've never done before.
Wow.
They jump in. The girl from Finland was on the soccer team. The boy is interested from Spain. He was a basketball player and also footballer. And believe it or not, that same year that he was a student in that school, they won the championship for
Wow.
that year. So he ended up with a ring, a football ring. So that was a great a great thing that he, you know, was a part of.
Was there ever a time, listening to you, was there ever a time in your life you weren't volunteering?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not. Even, you know, being a parent for Claudine, I was still thinking of doing work with kids, making sure that they're safe, they're okay. So I wouldn't say it's a part of me.
Okay.
I love doing it.
Okay. So I want to lighten up a little bit, because this has been a little bit on the heavy side, but which deservedly so. So let's lighten up a little bit. If you can go anywhere in the world, where would it be, and what person, famous or otherwise, would you invite as your guest?
Wow. That's great. And the answer would be to South Africa. And my guest would have been Nelson Mandela.
Perfect. 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 That's just a great answer. Finally, it's funny, he's one of the people on my little list of people I would have liked. And I have a little bit of a list, long story, heavy, list of people I would have liked, and I would have liked to have met.
Yes.
But it's funny, we never talked about it. I don't want to get into it now. It's not appropriate. But I'm very spiritual, and my spirituality is way, which is good. And I kind of meditate and do my things with a bunch of different spirits.
He's one of them.
No, but close. Without, it's not the right time and place, but he's right up there. I would have loved to have, but well, Dr. King is one of them. I talk to a couple times a week, and it works, by the way. And that's, I'm going to leave that. Anyway, it does work. Anyway, back to you. So I'm going to mention a couple words, and I'll say a word. You just tell me what it means to you. And as we kind of wind down this really great interview, what a great time that we spent. But anyway, so I'm going to throw a few words out.
Thank you.
Youth.
Vital part of the future to be preserved.
Okay. Great. Education.
Education, the great equalizer.
Yes. Wow, that's great. Volunteering.
Volunteering, golden service and an integral part of who I am.
The world.
Interesting place, wonderful place. And especially now, we're seeing how interesting it is. Who would have known that the entire world would be experiencing the same pandemic? So
Correct. And it's a great lesson, because that's what formed when I came up with this idea to do this channel and the title, We the Species. I just realized, hey, we're all just one. There isn't a place on this planet that's not affected.
yes.
And we're just one. And of course, environmentally, if we don't all work together quickly. And finally, the last word and the last part of our time together is the word age.
Age. But a number. Age is but a number.
I love it.
And you can do anything at any age.
Yeah, I love it.
You're able to. Do not let it restrict you. It is but a number.
Thank you. By the way, you have made my day for a lot of reasons.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, because the whole age thing is very much a part of me. We before we went on air, we talked. I became a lecturer at Rutgers at 74 a couple of years ago.
But a number.
But a number. It's just but a number. And I'll leave it at that. And we've done a wrap. We've done a wrap with the what a fascinating, wonderful, amazing person you are.
Thank you.
And I'm just so glad. I mean, life is so funny. Not to get kind of sappy and over emotional, but life is kind of funny how the twists and the turns and things that happen, and when you least expect it. My bumping into Claudine on LinkedIn, and how that has changed my life, and of course meeting you a few weeks ago. By the way, the day I met you was the first day I've been really out of my house in over a year. And Claudine was so nice to invite me to a track meet. You couldn't go because of COVID, but there were only a few people allowed, and of course I went. And it was my first time back on my beloved Rutgers campus in like a year or longer. And of course we met, and it was like instant chemistry, and we kind of knew we'd be doing this, and a few weeks later, here we are doing this. So, Carla, I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you. And before you close off, Calvin, I just want to say, continue that great work that you're doing. And you're right, the species, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the message. That's the wonderful message, and thank you for your volunteerism. Of course, we'll stay in touch. And by the way, I'll say this right up front. You're invited back. We can do other things. We can do Zooms, panels, whatever the imagination.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can do more. You've been really so gracious. I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
To be continued.
My pleasure.
And by the way, I'll say it on air. I'll be back with Claudine in a few weeks. We're doing a panel discussion, of which Claudine is a panelist, aimed at talking about keys to success for young people, of which Claudine is a young person. So so she'll be back, and anyway, you and I will be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.